Minister, you may have had the opportunity to read the recent NESC report on employment vulnerability as part of a just transition. It reports on the challenges of moving to a low-carbon economy and eventually to zero carbon, but also on the opportunities for innovation, for employment, retraining and investment. Just transition is described in that document as a bridge from where we are now to a future where all jobs are green and decent, where poverty is eradicated and our communities are thriving and resilient. It is a systemic and whole-of-economy approach to sustainability. It is a driver of job creation. It embeds social justice and climate justice into economic policy. We have an obligation to address our global climate chaos. Adhering to the principles of a just transition is how we bring everyone along on that challenge of long-term carbon emission reductions and ensures that the impacts of climate policy are fair on the individual. The next decade will be a green decade, and we are at a moment of complete change. The Green New Deal, the EU financial supports will be transformative in creating a future economy that works for all of us. It is up to us to grasp that opportunity. Minister, in this context, would you consider creating an Office of Just Transition within your department? I have three more questions I'll put to you first, Minister. Minister, there's been much speculation, we've heard it discussed here today, about the easing of health restrictions and what businesses may be permitted to open on a phased basis, and obviously in line with best medical advice, health advice. A significant challenge to business owners across all the sectors that have been mentioned here today, the retail sector and professional services, hospitality, tourist industry and others, will be the requirement to manage that workplace in line with social distancing, limiting numbers of staff or customers in attendance and strict adherence to that guidance. And along with the valid concerns that other deputies have raised here this afternoon about requests for support around cash flow and liquidity and rates and rents and insurance and the other pressures, there is also a need for clear guidance on what social distance structural changes will be required in order to trade again. And I'm talking about alterations to the shop floor, to offices, to customer and staff areas, and in general the normal work practices that have to be changed. These all have to be addressed. I've raised previously with the Minister of Finance about increasing the application of the amount and the application of the business continuity voucher system to cover this. And in response, it was indicated that other measures were being considered. So, Minister, I want you to, if you can, outline your department's progress on these other measures and support measures available to business to actually implement the structural alterations to the workplace and the guidance there on what those alterations may look like, changes in work practice and health requirements that might be required. And, Minister, you did cover a lot of the supports in your opening statement. And I'm talking about the practical measures that might be taken today while the doors to those businesses are closed. They could be carrying out those practical measures. And the two NSAI documents that you referred to, I have read both of them, and while they do cover a lot of the areas of concern, I don't think they fully cover the concerns I have on about the practical structural changes that could be made right now while the doors to those businesses are actually closed. Minister, in relation to the wage subsidy scheme, you are aware that women returning from maternity leave are experiencing difficulty and being denied acceptance onto the temporary wage subsidy scheme. In order to qualify, an employee must have been on the payroll through January and February. However, in the case of maternity leave, this may not be the case. Trade unions have raised this problem and I have been contacted by those affected. Minister, can you clarify, is this an anomaly in the wage subsidy scheme and one which will be addressed and rectified quickly in order to grant women returning to work after maternity leave the same rights and supports as other workers? Minister, in relation to commercial rents, can you provide clarity on the position of commercial renters during this crisis and if they are included in the eviction moratorium as set out in the emergency measures in the Public Interest Act? And can the Minister provide clear information to commercial tenants and landlords on how these tenancy protections are to be implemented? Finally, Minister, I would ask that you would liaise with the Minister for Transport to confirm when the Waterford to Limerick Junction rail line will be reopened. I believe it's been closed in relation to Irish Rails and in relation to COVID. This rail line provides a vital south-east-west link for passengers and needs to be restored as soon as possible. And furthermore, and in relation to Brexit and exports, the Limerick Junction to Rosslare Port and the Dublin to Rosslare line should be assessed for investment to provide an improved commuter service and also to maintain that business and trade transport link directly to the rest of Europe. Thank you, Minister.